What does it take for you to get to that point in your academic journey where you have control over the things you understand, the things you recall, and the things you retain in your minds? That is a journey we are starting today, and I am very sure that at the end of the day, you'll be able to achieve three things. Number one, you'll be able to understand anything you really want to understand. You'll be able to retain the most relevant information that you need to retain in your mind. And very importantly, when you need to recall the information, you will have what it takes to recall every relevant information. So this series of videos, I'll be taking you through what I see as a foundation to effective learning. Now, let me ask you a question. If I told you now that, what does it take for you to walk from, let's say from your car park in school to your classroom? What will you tell me? I'm very sure you'll tell me about the fact that number one, it takes your legs, right? Your legs, your eyes, maybe your hands, because at times you swing your hands and then they give you a kind of sense of balance. And then it also takes that you have some strength inside you. But what does it take for you to be an effective learner? The primary organ for effective learning is your brain. But you know the funny thing about the brain? The funny thing about us and our brain is the fact that we take it for granted that a healthy brain is the foundation for effective learning. So if I ask you this morning, or this afternoon, this evening, whatever the time you are coming across this video, what have you done to make your brain more effective? You brushed your teeth, right? To make your teeth healthier. What did you do to that brain to make it healthier, to make it stronger, and to make it more effective and efficient when it comes to your learning? Did I hear you say no? All right, so I'll be talking to you about your brain. That is the foundation we are laying. I want to tell you about how strong your brain is, how dynamic, how wonderful, so that it will encourage you, right, to learn about how to take care of it, because your brain is not an ordinary organ. It is a super normal organ. That is why I tell everybody, in your head is power. In your head is something that has a capacity to make you a superhero. So are you ready to go on this journey with me? Let's talk about your brain a little. First of all, number one, your brain is a superpower. Your brain is a superpower. And what do I mean? Do you know? So our fun fact number one, do you know that the neurons in your brain are more than the stars in the galaxy? Yes. The neurons in your brain are more than the stars in the galaxy. So when you learn something new, what happens is that a whole lot of things are happening in your mind. A whole lot of things are happening in your brain. The neurons are connecting. A lot of waves are moving from one part of your brain to the other. The right part of your brain is connecting and releasing to the left part. The movement and everything that you need to consolidate that learning. If you want to sit down and count those neurons one after the other, they are more than what you see in the sky when you are counting the stars. So when I think about the Milky Way, with billions of stars, right? The neurons in your brain, they are more than that, right? So scientists believe that there are more than 100 billion neurons, and each of them connects to thousands others in your brain. Can you see that under normal circumstances, there shouldn't be a subject you don't understand? Right? So if the neurons in your brain are more than the stars in the sky, what that tells you, or what that should tell you, is the fact that that brain has a capacity to understand virtually anything. Even if those things are things that you can say, oh, I don't have an aptitude for this, I don't want to do it. Your brain has a capacity to understand it, if you know how to train that brain to understand it, right? So what do the neurons do? So these connections help us to talk, to solve riddles, to move around, to coordinate ourselves, and very importantly, to understand, to retain information, and to be able to recall information. That is the work of the neurons. Good. So let's go on. All right, let me ask you a question. As I'm teaching you right now, as you're listening to me, what are you thinking about? How is it that you can listen and say you are something else? Yeah, you've got billions and billions of neurons in your brain. Fun fact number 2, your brain has the capacity to learn new things all through your life. So right from when you were born till when you are 100 years old, your brain has the capacity to learn something new on a daily basis. That is what we call neuroplasticity in psychology and neurology and psychiatry, all those fields, right? Your brain can learn something new if only you teach it something new, right? That is why the form of your brain can always change. When people say, oh, when you're at this age, you can't learn anything new anymore, it is not true. Your brain can always learn something new. Whether you're 5, whether you're 15, or you're 100 years old, your brain can learn something new. And your ability to keep learning something new is one thing that will help you have a healthy brain. So you have a healthier brain when your brain keeps learning something new, because that brain is always active. So every time you try to learn something new, the brain is rewiring itself, right? So your brain rewires itself anytime you're learning something new. So if I tell you right now, learn a new language, your brain is rewiring itself. And think of your brain as a house. But this house has the capacity to keep adding rooms to it. So when you're learning something new, your brain is creating a new room for it. So your brain has no limit to learning. So it is not like, oh, because you know this, that you cannot know this. No. It's like creating an extra room. So you are expanding and extending your house. So there's a building, which is your brain. The new learning you are adding is that room you are adding to it. All you need to do is just to have another construction. And if you want to learn something new, another construction, your brain can expand. It is plastic, right? It can expand. So you can learn something new. And nothing is too difficult for you to understand, because your brain can expand to accommodate it. If you know how to manage your brain effectively, that brain will expand. It will accommodate that new learning, and it will incorporate it into what you already knew before. Right? So, if I want to ask you a question right now, what new thing have you learned this week? Learn something new, your brain can take it. Your brain has the capacity to do it. Right? Then for fact number 3, your brain is like, the way your brain works is like a road network. Yes, like a road network. So just think of the city you live in and then you look at the road networks. Right? So when you learn something new, you are constructing a new road. You can think about it like that. We call it a neural pathway. So if, for example, I tell you to learn, let's say you've never played the keyboard before, and I say, learn the keyboard. The first time you sit on that keyboard, it's going to look strange to you. That is not a reason, or that is not an evidence that you will not understand it if you learn it. No. It is just like there's a road network and you are creating a new road. What's the first thing you will do? You have to clear the bush. Clearing the bush requires a lot of effort, right? So initially when you are starting to learn the keyboard, if you never knew it before, you have to put in a whole lot of effort. The problem is that at this point, many people give up because they believe, oh, this is hard to learn. I don't have the capacity to learn it. But that is not true. If you keep putting in that effort, so just imagine you are clearing the bush, so it requires a whole lot of effort. And then you bring in some machines, they clear the entire place, they grade the road, they tar the road, and what happens? You begin to glide on that road. Let me ask you a question. Do you know there was a time you couldn't walk? Do you know there was a time that if you could read your baby mind, it looked like walking was an impossibility? If you see a baby trying to walk right now, they take one step and then they keep falling. What is happening? They are creating a new neural pathway. And the initial part is always a bit challenging because it's just like you are clearing the bush, you are cutting down the trees. It requires a whole lot of dedicated effort. If you can break through that period of the dedicated effort, your learning becomes very, very smooth. So that is why, even though several years ago you couldn't walk, you kept working hard at it. You were working harder and harder and harder at it. And what happened? After some time, it became so easy for you to walk that even if you are blindfolded, you can walk. Can you see the way it works now? So you can look at your learning ability as clearing a new road. If you look at your brain as your road network in your city. So learning is like building a highway. It takes a while. It takes some effort initially. However, if you keep at it, what happens over time is that the entire road clears, right? And then you begin to glide on that same road that you were struggling to construct sometime earlier. So if you don't stop learning, if you don't give up on your ability to learn and your dedication to keep learning something new, it will soon become very easy for you. So when you come across a new subject and then you say, oh, this is challenging, is it a normal feeling? Yes, it is a normal feeling. But because you understand how your brain works, what do? You make up your mind to dedicate the right efforts to learning it from the beginning. And what happens after a while? It becomes very easy for you. So easy that even if they wake you up right from the middle of a deep sleep, you'll be able to respond accordingly to any questions that have to do with that subject. Right? So let me ask you a question. What new thing have you been trying to learn lately and you have been finding it very difficult? Do you think you should go back to it right now? I think you should go back to it too. Because if the reason why you stopped learning it is because you felt it was too difficult for you to understand, then I have been able to tell you that your brain has the capacity to understand it if you keep working hard on it. So what have I taught you today? Number one, the connections in your brains are more than the stars in the sky. Number two, you have the capacity to learn something new even up until when you are 100 years old. Right? And number three, when you learn something new, you create neural pathways. At the initial stage, it might be a bit challenging, but just think about it like you are constructing a highway. You keep working hard at it. You keep working hard at it. And what happens? That path that had a lot of trees that was difficult to drive through initially becomes a wonderful highway where you can go at full throttle. Right? So, before we go, let me tell you that your brain is like a muscle. You keep working hard at it. The more you work on your muscles, the stronger and the more obvious they are. So make up your mind today. You're going to work on that wonderful machine called the brain. You're going to put your best into it, understanding that the difficulty you are having now is just because you are creating a neural pathway, and then you dedicate yourself to putting in more effort into learning on a daily basis. Because according to what I taught you, neuroplasticity, you have the ability to learn something new on a daily basis. Look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thank you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop it in the comment section, or you copy my email in the comment section, in the caption, and then you send me an email. I'll be more than glad to respond to you. See you in the next episode.